This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we are going to update and upgrade our Jodah the Unifier Legendary Humans Matter EDH deck. Thank you for joining us for another installment of the Up and Up series. Here we have Jodah the Unifier. Down in the description below this video, you'll find links to this build's deck tech, the up-to-the-minute deck list, as well as a link to the video primer series. We have 4 cards going in, and they're all legendaries, and that means 4 cards are coming out. Alright, Jodah, here we go. The first card going into the 99, it is, Vraska Joins Up. Now, this is not a legendary human, but it does fit our legendary theme, and it will serve Jodah's troops very, very well. This enchantment is just a green and a black mana, which is mind-boggling considering what it does. When Vraska Joins Up enters the battlefield, we put a death touch counter on each creature we control. Each creature, not up to number of targets, each creature we control gets a death touch counter. And whenever a legendary creature we control deals combat damage to a player, we draw a card. We win our games via combat, and providing death touch to our creatures, let's face it, our humans are not always going to be the biggest creatures on the battlefield, but giving them death touch is going to make our opponents have a very tough time deciding if they want to most likely block down our creature, and they'll lose their creature because of the death touch counter that we have, or they're going to take the combat damage and let us draw a card. If they decide to go creature for creature, that fits this build. Let's try that again. That fits this build very, very well. Vraska Joins Up is going to be a very great way to accentuate combat for our deck and potentially provide us with card advantage. With this legendary enchantment going into the 99, coming out is going to be Vanquisher's Banner. Now, this is a solid tribal card. I do not take anything away from that. There are specific reasons why this is coming out, however. The Anthem, not really necessary for our creatures. As I said, our humans aren't the biggest creatures on the battlefield, but they're not 1/1 tokens either. They're not little goblins or smaller or just, slightly bigger than tokens merfolk. They're okay. The Anthem effect is not going to be missed. Investing 5 mana into an artifact that does not provide us any kind of immediate card draw unless we're able to cast a human creature spell the same turn, well, that one is where it's going to hurt a little bit. This is a quick deck. We can really do some damage in the few opening turns, and we could really overwhelm the battlefield. A lot of the times when I have this card in my hand, I'm choosing not to cast this for the 5 mana, as opposed to investing 5 mana into one of the legendary humans, getting that onto the battlefield, and then just swinging out with whatever I have. So I prefer the quicker version of getting card advantage that Vraska Joins Up is going to give us, versus the Vanquisher's Banner. Yes, we've got a number of creatures in this deck that we should always be able to cast. We shouldn't have any trouble triggering Vanquisher's Banner. That's not the problem. Triggering it isn't the problem. It's the slight speed bump we experience by investing the 5 mana into this, and then most likely waiting another turn to get the best bang for our buck. Because again, the +1/+1, we don't have token armies, so we're not going to get a huge benefit out of that Anthem effect. Plus, we're shaving the mana value and we're shaving the mana investment off by 60% by going from 5 to 2 with Vraska Joins Up. So at this moment, Vanquisher's Banner is out and Vraska Joins Up is in. All right, here we go. Next card going in. Here we have Jiru and Hazoret. Here we have one of the multiverse team-ups from March of the Machine. We have a 5/4 human god for 2 red, and a white mana. And as long as we have 1 or fewer cards in hand, Jiru and Hazoret have Vigilance and Haste. That should not be a problem for us in our deck, so we really shouldn't count on Haste and Vigilance for this Boros creature, because we have a lot of card draw, a lot of card advantage in this build, and we really shouldn't count on having the Vigilance and the Haste. Which is a good thing, because if that was the only thing we were depending on, this card wouldn't be coming into this deck. It's the massive block of text after it that makes this card so appealing for Jodah builds. Whenever Jiru and Hazoret attacks, we look at the top 6 cards of our library. We may exile a legendary creature card from among them. We put the rest in the bottom of our library in a random order, and until end of turn, we may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. Pretty much, we're getting a free creature. Now, there is no evasion on Jiru and Hazoret. They have no protection. There's no flying. There's no kind of walk. There's not even menace or trample. It's just a 5/4. And if it has to sit on the battlefield for a turn before it can attack, well, it's possible that we may not be able to swing with this creature anyways, because it may just get blocked down and destroyed by our opponents. Because I can't imagine that our opponents are going to want Jiru and Hazoret putting free creatures onto our side of the battlefield each time it attacks. Even though this creature lacks all of the aforementioned abilities, that doesn't mean that it can't get them in other ways. The 99 is teeming with ways in which to make Jiru and Hazoret a much bigger threat. And the 5/4, that's not a small creature, and it doesn't have to survive the combat in order to get the creature from the top 6 cards of our library onto the battlefield. If we can do it more than once, that would be fantastic. All right, so Jiru and Hazoret providing some more card advantage, similar to Vraska joins up. That's going into the 99, and that's going to replace Smothering Tithe. Now, hear me out here, because I know that I'm taking out a lot of what is considered to be commander staples that should always make sure that it makes the deck strong, and Smothering Tithe is a great deck. I'm sorry, it is a great card. Yeah, a whole deck of Smothering Tithe would be awesome. So what we have here is Smothering Tithe is pretty much the same thing as Vanquisher's Banner. We're investing that 4 mana into a card that we don't get any benefit from until our opponents start drawing cards. Historically, for me, at least in my playgroup, the payment that Smothering Tithe has the opponents pay, the 2 generic mana, is about a coin flip. Sometimes they pay it, sometimes they don't. So we don't always get the treasure tokens needed to justify having Smothering Tithe and its 4 mana investment sitting on our side of the battlefield. We don't have tons of high-costed spells in this deck either. Most of our human spells are 5 or less. There might be most of our legendary human spells are around 5 or less. That's not all of them, of course, but it's the majority of them. So the treasures that are produced by Smothering Tithe, at least for me in this deck in my playgroup, it's not all it's cracked up to be. So for me, I would rather invest that 4 mana into something else that's not going to really hurt our tempo. So similar to what we said about Vanquisher's Banner, which is a great commander staple for tribal decks. But the 5 mana that is invested in the Vanquisher's Banner slows our tempo. And again, I find myself with this card in my hand wanting to play a human that costs 4 mana instead of casting Smothering Tithe, because I don't want to lose the ability to add to the board state so that we can continue to send those creatures into combat, attacking with our humans, because that's the way we're going to win these games. Is this going to work out? I don't know. We're not hurting for mana fixing. We're not hurting for mana ramp. We are good with our mana curve, and I don't think we're going to miss a beat by taking Smothering Tithe out. This is not me saying to any Jodah players out there, oh, you should definitely take out Smothering Tithe. This is partly a reaction to my play group. Like I said, it's not always free treasure tokens all the way around. They're pretty much sticklers for not allowing card draw off of Rhystic Study and treasure token production off of Smothering Tithe. Still, even at a 50-50 clip, investing 4 mana into this, and if I get 4 treasure tokens in 4 turns, 4 complete turn cycles, I don't know if it's worth it. I just don't think it's going to be worth it. So we're going to see how it goes. I think adding to the board with what Jiru and Hazoret does, even though it's 1 mana more than the 4 mana it costs to cast Smothering Tithe, it'll be a little bit slower, because that's going to be turn 5, usually sometimes turn 3 or 4 if we have the right ramp in place. But adding directly to the board our creature card, that just seems so much better than maybe getting a couple of treasure tokens each round of turns. Maybe. We'll see. you'll let me know in the comment section below. And if I have to come back here to put Smothering Tithe back into the 99, well, then we'll just have to do that. All right, halfway point here. Next card going in. Come on, Jodah, stay up there. Don't fall asleep on us. All right, next card going in. Oh, he fell anyways. Come on now. I'm the one doing all the work. You just have to stand up. All right, here we go. All right, next card going in. Here we have Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty. Another Boros creature. This one is just one, a red, and a white as a 3/2 human knight. This has the battalion mechanic, so whenever Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty and at least 2 other creatures attack, we draw a card. Then we may put a creature card with mana value X or less from our hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, where X is Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty's power. We have a lot of ways to boost power in this deck, including our commander, and Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty is going to get a creature card onto our side of the battlefield. Minimally, we're only drawing a card. At the best of this creature, we're drawing a card and getting a creature into play tapped and attacking. You can see a theme running here of the cards that we're including into this Jodah build, and so far it's all about card advantage. Vraska joins up, gets us to draw cards. Jiru and Hazaret puts creatures from the top of our library, well, one of the top 6, right into play, and Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty has us draw a card and put a creature into play tapped and attacking, as long as we meet that X requirement. Like I said, we have a lot of ways to boost the power of creatures in this deck. We should not have any trouble doing so. With Liz going into the 99, it's going to replace the aforementioned Rhystic Study. Now, before everyone starts losing their mind and claiming that I am the worst commander deck builder in the history of Magic, once more, hear me out. I rarely draw cards off of this. Yes, it helps to have the opponents pay that 1 extra mana. Yeah, that's definitely helpful. Tapping down their lands every time or paying that extra mana every spell they cast. Okay, sure, that helps to slow them down a little bit. A big part of this card coming out, and again, this is not me saying to any Jodah players out there, take your Rhystic Studies out of Jodah. No. A large part of this card coming out is because I have so many ways to gain card advantage in this deck that this copy of Rhystic Study would be better served in a different deck. This is not me saying don't play it. This is not me saying it's a bad card. And again, this is not me saying take it out of your Jodah decks. This is me saying I have so many other ways to draw cards and get card advantage. As you can see, we added 3 more here. That this copy of Rhystic Study, which is not a cheap card, would be better served in a different deck. That's really the only reason that's happening. Got a lot of commander decks, as you can tell from the BCC, the Burgeoning Commander Catalog, and that enchantment will be better served in a different deck. That's all I'm saying. All right, last card going in. We have here another legendary enchantment. It's Annie Joins Up. 1 mana and Naya colors. That's 1 red, green, and a white. When Annie Joins Up enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So a little bit of battlefield management. Additionally, if a triggered ability of a legendary creature we control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. All right, Yarok the Desecrated, this is not, but boy oh boy is this going to be a very nice card. You saw the triggered abilities that we've already had here with Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty and Jiru and Hazaret. Yeah, those are both triggered abilities. Imagine doing that twice with Annie Joins Up on our side of the battlefield. With this legendary enchantment going into the 99, it is replacing Bard class. Now here is a class that's a red and a green, and level 1 gives legendary creatures we control enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on them, which, as we've demonstrated, is not necessarily integral. We don't mind losing that. Next level, level 2, legendary spells we cast cost red and green less to cast, an effect that reduces only the colored mana we pay. That's not enough to stretch across the entirety of a 5-color build to just have red and green after making an initial mana investment of 4 to get to this level. And then lastly, level 3, whenever we cast a legendary spell, we exile the top 2 cards of our library and we may play them this turn. So the card advantage granted there could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, because the cards that are being exiled when we cast the spells, if we don't have the appropriate mana needed to play those cards, we lose those cards. They are gone. And what if those are a couple of our most powerful humans or some of our game-ending cards that could help close out a victory? I'm not a fan of the impulse exiling, particularly when it happens anytime you cast a legendary spell. I want to be able to have the ability to control that and cast those spells when I want to and not when the card tells me. So there you have it, MTG BC. You let me know in the comment section below what you think about these changes. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.